Miranda, are you ready? You're on and running? We are live, all right. I will call the February 11th, 2025 Executive and Finance Standing Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Crow.
Here.
Manning. Hill.
Here.
Glassberger.
Here.
Woodhouse.
Here.
Kirk.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
Louis.
Here.
We have nine.
Perfect, thank you. Verification of open meetings law compliance. All right, agenda approval, item 4. 18-point agenda, looking for approval of the agenda as presented. Mr. Manning, seconded by Mr. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Minutes from the January 27th meeting are in your packet. Any corrections that need to be made by anyone? Anything they saw that wasn't correct? Not, I would approve them as presented in our packet. Item 6, public comment. Anybody from the public or online that would like to comment? Seeing none. Comments there? All right, let's go to reports. Item 7, interim county administrator report. Mr. Kalish.
All right, so in your guys' packet, I have one item to share with you. It's up there on the screen. So this would be the continuation of contract with Maximus US Services for the 2024 to 2026 cost allocation plan services. So Maximus has provided this service to us since 2013. Without going too far into the weeds on what this is, as noted in the scope of services. So if you look at Exhibit A, Maximus will prepare for us Central Services Cost Allocation Plan, which identifies various costs incurred by the county to support and administer outside funded federal programs. So the plan will contain a determination of allowable costs providing each supporting service, such as accounting, legal counsel, and data processing. This plan will be for 24, 25, and 26, and then cover all of those reporting periods. So this report, again, is something we do on an annual basis. The cost for this report is listed down there at the bottom. So it's a 3-year contract. The terms would start April 15 of 2025 through March 31 of 2028. It's $4,100 for the 24-25 plan, and then $4,250 for the 2026 plan. So total 3-year contract of $12,450. As an interim county administrator, I have under section 4B sub 3 of the procurement policy the ability to proceed with this contract because of the amount. But I just wanted to bring this to your attention that we will be moving forward with these folks for the next 3 years to do that cost service allocation plan. They produce the plan every year. It's used by several departments in the county to report back to various entities for reimbursement purposes and those things.
Reimbursement like the federal for grants or for what?
Yeah, and different like child HHS will get reimbursements from there. Child support gets reimbursements from there. So really just is a cost allocation plan. And they produce a nice little report. They haven't done this year's yet. They're always like a year behind, right? It's kind of like the audit. We're a little behind. So I would just give you a report that we will proceed with those folks for the services they provided to the county since 2013. And Candace and I reviewed quite a bit of stuff with them as well for this last one.
Mr. Carroll.
So make sure I understand. The way we do things now, you're not requiring approval since it was in your budget. You're just giving this for our information.
This is as a report, yes. That's why I'm not asking for approval. I have the authority to approve that. I'm just giving you the report because it is a 3-year contract, and just to make you all aware of what I'm doing, so you know I'm not going rogue, doing something we don't normally do. If it was something outside of a scope of service we did, or if we were changing a provider, then I most certainly would have asked for your blessing, just because it'd be something different outside of the ordinary. But these guys have done this for us for quite some time and are very familiar with the county. So that is the documents you have there for that report. Other things to update you on. Tyler implementation. So I say this because this is going to be a huge undertaking that's going to be starting here, effective live on next Monday, the 17th. So We will begin to actually use the software, so I hesitate to say go live because it will be live, but we will be no longer using the AS400 system effective our data poll, which is tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Okay, so 3 p.m. tomorrow, we will no longer be using the AS400 system for the GFS portion of this, right? So there's the accounts payable, accounts receivable portion, and then there's the payroll portion. So we're transitioning to that model next Monday. This has been a bit of a process. We were finally able to get our access to the system, and Barb, Jason, and I spent the last 2 hours from 2 to 4 going over security levels, access, making sure people have access. So we will have a review session this Thursday with the folks from Tyler to make sure we're all on the same page with entering a voucher, paying bills, and making sure we can continue on with those operational procedures at a very basic level to get us going. There'll be some more training with that, but just to let you know, the office will be very busy next week, and we will all be on pins and needles to make sure that this system is going to go off without any hitches. It's not been the most exciting time. It's been a bit stressful, and I'm assuming there's going to be bumps that we haven't thought about yet, but that's the way the world works with these things. Barb, Jason, and I will try to mitigate as much of that as possible, but it will be alive, real, and hopefully well next week. So as always, a little bit of grace will go a long way next week. And then the wage study, I won't go into too much detail with this, but we are finishing up with the appeals. Again, this process has not been as easy as we all thought it would be. I did request that Dr. Melvin, who is the consultant that we've been using, provide you folks with a formal update in writing on the process and how we're going to move forward. So I will share that all with you. I believe it's in my email. It's buried a bit, but I will share that all with you at the board meeting as well, so you can have an idea of what that process is. Again, there were some unintended things we had to deal with, but we've addressed those issues and are working very hard to move forward with that process. So my hope is, as I said in January, that by March 1, this is all done, that we're at least wrapped up to the point where we can start to then look at the maintenance portion of that we briefly discussed in the January meeting as well, knowing that budget season is a few short months away. We need to work on the maintenance and start to determine those things. But hopefully all job descriptions will be approved and everything will be as final as we can get it. There'll be a few more tweaks, but an update on that is we are working and figuring out the bumps as we've gone along. So I think that's it for now, sir.
Mr. Kittle.
So the new wage study rates go into effect.
They were already approved. You approved them on December 23rd. They were effective with the first pay period in 2025. So the job descriptions are just fixing the job descriptions. The wage was determined post appeal. So when the first appeals went out, this is just cleaning up more of those job duties and making sure that we've captured that. The actual job description. The problem is that we had some, I will say, staffing changes and some things come up that kind of led to job descriptions not being shared as they probably should have been, or in a manner which made this a little more easier and make it feel a little better. So we had a few of those bumps that we're not aware of until the department head meeting on January 16th. So we've tried very hard to address those and make sure that all departments receive those job descriptions. We hit a bit of a hard reset to send everything back to everyone to make sure everyone received the most up-to-date version of the document that we had for those. And so I've been working our way through that. It's been a bit of a struggle. It's not been super fun, I'll tell you that. It's not been a great process. I knew it was going to be difficult. I didn't realize it was going to be this difficult, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, so we'll get there eventually. Very soon, before March 1st, because it has to be done before then. My opinion.
Good to hear. Any other questions for Mr. Kaylee? You're done?
I'm done.
You are done. I'm done. We're all good here. All right, let's move on to item 8, discussion, possible action. Resolution approving a new collective bargaining agreement with the Richland County Deputy Sheriff's Association, WPPA, the union. Item 8.
So this was stricken from the agenda in January because there were some changes that were not put in the final version. So I will turn it over to Attorney Wendell and Sheriff Porter to review those if need be. There were not a ton of changes, right? It was very minor things, if you will, but I will turn it over to you to discuss those.
Yeah, so the changes specifically were in section 8, 9, and 14 of the collective bargaining agreement. The bulk of the changes, to kind of summarize all of that, had to do with the investigator position. So the investigator position does not work the 12-hour shift like the rest of patrol. He works a 5 to 8 hour schedule, 5 on, 2 off. So Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. So we had to correct some language in there that was not included for him, or add some language that was not included for him. And then the other thing, section 14, was some language cleanup. We had specifically requested, traditionally in the collective bargaining agreement, there was always start time ranges. And for whatever reason, specific start times were put in for the shifts. And so we had to change it back to start time ranges.
Do you have anything else? Anybody else questions? They went through it pretty thoroughly last time and just a couple more cleanups, if I remember right. Okay,
And it was brought back here for the county board, in February. So there is a resolution, that's the same resolution that we had from the last month. I just changed today's date and removed the X's. So, again, standard resolution we've had in the past, so.
I'd be looking for a motion to move this on to full county board, the resolution as presented in your packet. Seconded by Mr. Frank. Any further discussion on the contract? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, there is 8 is done. Item 9, discussion possible action approval of short-term rental ordinance. Item 9.
So this item was presented at Natural Resources. I believe Natural Resources requested it come to this committee for overview. Is that correct, Supervisor Carroll?
Yes.
I will let you provide background on that. As a committee, I don't want to overstep my boundaries. Oh,
We, of course, this has been going for a long time, but we were able to get good input from some short-term rental owners. They reviewed the initial draft, gave them some suggestions, which we incorporated quite a bit. Where's Kathy?
Back here.
Kathy's got a couple last minute edits that she wants to mention, and then
Well, one of the things I noticed, they decided at the last meeting that they wanted like a yearly, an annual permit license. But we missed some things in the one that you got, missed some things where we have it every 2 years. So that would be changed. They decided that $25 for the permit, the license. So that'll have to be put in the fee schedule when the time comes. What's the other thing right now, in the zoning ordinance, it's down as a conditional use permit. And if this would go through, then that would have be switched then as a permitted use, as long, we work with language with, Attorney Wendell, saying that as long as they had this license, it would be a permitted use.
and right now, the department is working on review and updating of the zoning ordinance. So that will be one place where we can make them fly.
Does they already pay by, was it $400? For a state permit.
That $400 is, Mr. Frank has some knowledge on this as well, but $400 is lifetime, every year?
Oh, so for the state license?
Yes.
Yeah, the state license, you pay an initial $400. That's the first time, and then every year you have to renew that license. It's a little less for the renewal than the initial application, but every year that has to be renewed.
Do they do any inspection or anything at the state level when they?
So at the state level, they do an inspection the first time for sure. They come in, they go through everything, they go through a list, it's a checkoff thing. And at the end of the inspection, they say, here are the highlights, here's what you need to fix. Many times those things are very, very small and they can be taken care of right away. Other times they'll say, we have to, send us how you fixed it and show us that. So after that, they inspect as they choose. So they may come in, they may not come in. You don't know, so you've got to be ready.
And one of the things that the committee wanted was, they have to have somebody within 60 miles of the Airbnb or the short-term rental, so that if there's an issue that comes up, there's somebody that could respond and not, it doesn't mean it has to be the owner, it can be somebody, they say, hey, we're gonna put you down as a person to check it out. And the other thing about having this is, when they come into the zoning office to get this, then we can check and make sure that their septic system is sized for how many bedroom, we had somebody come in and they wanted to add a couple more things in, and it was like a couple more bedrooms, and it's like, your septic system's not gonna handle it. So that's one thing we'd be checking. Too. We don't want failing septic systems either.
Committee, thoughts? Mr. Coy?
Question. So we don't give this until we've seen that the state has approved them.
Well, right, that's one of the requirements in ours, that they have the state one, but we're trying to time it so that when someone comes in to update their state ones, they do ours, so they don't have to come in twice.
I mean, because I think that, I don't know that everybody has the state one. It would be my,
Well, and I know I don't want to try and go backwards here. You guys have put a lot of work into it. Mr. Gill, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just under definitions, it looks like natural resource standing committee is struck out. I think that's a typo. I don't.
There's a couple areas where there's still some highlights.
Yeah, just a cleanup thing, so.
My question was going to be, Kathy or Steve, what are other counties doing?
There's several other counties that have them. When we look up, Sauk County has one, and they're like really expensive. There's some villages or some cities and villages that have these too. So we worked with Mr. Liddell about looking at other ones and pulling things out of them, but there's a lot of places that do have them. Like the closest one is Sauk County has one, as far as a county.
Any thoughts, Mr. Carroll?
Just one more thing, again, we weren't trying to duplicate what the state requirements were, we just wanted to have a few things to make sure folks were trying to be good neighbors, and just to be able to track what's going on in the county. To your point, you're right, there are some out there maybe, but they need to get licensed.
and you know, what I've heard is the fastest way for someone to get a license is when the other ones that have a license maybe make it known that they don't have a license or something like that. But I'm glad that we don't have some big fee. We don't need another great big fee for someone to do business. I'm fine with that. There's a lot of question at the township level on whether there should be room tax and non-room tax, and some are and some aren't. It gets pretty heated when you get talking about that. So I'm glad we're doing something. And the other thing I would say is that I'd like to see them all go through the process, make sure everybody gets what the state goes through all this process, because it just cleans up all the noise. There gets to be a lot of noise in it, and I just assumed we didn't have that noise. Some of us have more of them than others, and it's easy to get along without a bunch of added costs. I don't think anybody wants a bunch of added costs.
Agreed.
So.
Mr. Frank?
I guess one of the things I want to make sure, and I appreciate the committee keeping the costs low, because it is a business that gets taxed on a number of different levels. And it's also competitive to the other counties around, because as those rates go up and those charged in different room rates, if we can keep ours at a good level, that brings people here. The group that we had together that was talking about this, just off the top of our head, there were 5, 6 of us, I think, in the room. We just went through quick what our year totals were, and we brought in over 10,000 people into Richland County in that year that we totaled up. That's a lot of people. Now, some of those people have bought property here. Some of them are building houses here. I personally had one who came here, took a job here, looking for a place to build. They're currently renting at one of the apartment complexes here for the future. So it is not just here and gone. This is something that's building the area, and I'm really proud of the group that come together and making that difference. Thank you.
Well, we also want to make sure their experience is good,
Absolutely.
because if it's not,
It's not, and the other side of this with short-term rentals, we go through different companies. You go through Airbnb, you go through Vrbo, you go through Evolve. There's all kinds of companies that do that. And if your rankings aren't up there, you don't get business. So the county can set a standard. That's great. But we have a standard online that everybody sees. And if you have a ding on there, you got to get through that, or you don't make your money. You don't bring that return in. And that hurts your business. So the money that's usually coming in is a lot of that's going right back into finding ways to encourage and make it better and find other resources. So yeah, we're already at a standard. Everybody's watching. So that's good.
well, if there's no other further discussion, go ahead, Ingrid.
You mentioned what are there fees? I don't see them actually listed on there.
So we talked about the fee. What were the fees? Is what the question is.
$25.
$25
So
a year.
it's not in this particular.
That's the part of the editing we still need to do.
Oh, okay.
And but the fees aren't supposed to be in the ordinances, it's in the fee schedule.
Because it mentions at the bottom the $500.
That's what that needs, that's one of them that we missed.
So actually,
It'll say something about going to the fee schedule or whatever.
Yeah, it
Right.
does say that. So the $500. Well, then it says that if you've already paid that, the initial short-term rental license application fee shall be waived. Is that the one that you're saying is going to be $25?
Correct.
Yeah, the 500 is for a conditional use permit.
Okay.
It's a zoning requirement.
That's where we're switching, want to switch it
From
from
that. Okay.
move it out of the initial use and say it's a use if they get this.
Is this going to be cleaned up in time for county board, or should
Well-
I think we should wait till March.
I think that's,
that was gonna be my next question, if we,
Yeah, I want to make sure I work with Mrs. Freeman-Dell, make sure we the language what we need.
get it right?
I would agree with that. I would feel more comfortable with it coming back
I would too.
in March
Okay.
and then approving it at the March
All right.
planning board.
that way we can look at it one more time. All right,
The conditional use permit never made, there was no conditions to the permit, so I.
No.
It's just,
No.
it's all it was. I mean,
Yep.
that was all I ever said is they go, well, you gotta get a conditional. Okay, what are the conditions? You know, like in a mine, I always use mining for the example. There's a reclamation plan. There's all this other stuff that goes along with that conditional use permit. And we do these and there was nothing, so just to me, it was waste of money.
yeah,
I'm glad.
Bring it back next month.
that'll be the plan, bring it back next month, or we could even bring, well, we got enough on the 24th.
I think, yeah.
Yes, we'll wait for the first meeting in March. All right, enough on that one. Item 10. Questions there, all right. Review of access and organization of files available electronically to county board supervisor. Item 10. Mr. Kalish.
Yeah, so I know this has been brought up. I know we months ago now, I forget when it last was, that we briefly touched on this with you folks being able to access your files with iPads versus laptops and that sort of thing. I think there was not a real resolution there, other than the fact that MIS did offer up those that were interested the ability to have access to a laptop to see if viewing on the laptop was better or, produced an end result that would maybe potentially mean everyone would switch to a laptop for ease of use and that sort of thing. I believe MIS Director Scott, three individuals did seek MIS to get the laptop. I haven't heard actually from that. I haven't actually heard any feedback on how well that's going or not. I think this is a valid question. I also think this kind of leads into a larger question with just county-wide record management and how we want to manage those records countywide, how we keep them just for our own use and then how they're available to the public and for everyone else to view. So, I don't, I'll let Barb, is there anything else you want to add about the way the laptop versus the iPad is or how that went before I go on?
So we are working on that yet. When we offered that up, the difference is the iPads obviously run on a Mac platform. And the program that you utilize is not available on a Windows platform. So that presented a challenge. We had I can't think of it, the PDF manager isn't available on, that goes out and uses that secure connection. So we have to create a new SFTP server with new connections. It's gonna work for a laptop and for the iPads. In the midst of all this, we have had two different changes that we've changed, and you're gonna see very soon, our MDM software, we're changing away from the current one into Mosel, which is a nicer product with a lesser price tag. And that will help us with our new venture into the iPads, but we also have to put up a new SFTP, sorry, it's hard to say, server. So it's much more complicated than I initially anticipated, and it's taking more time. And that is going on in the background. It's just slow because we can't focus all our efforts on that with Radio Tower, with Tyler, with new software in Pine Valley, with all the other irons during the fire. So while it's still very important, it is actively ongoing. It's just more steps than we anticipated. The other thing that is coming, and I know many of you are excited about this, is the new webpage. We are meeting Thursday, I think it is, to have the final sketch up with the color scheme. So we'll be switching. When we do that, the way that you view your documents will change to a web-based only. So at that point, it was, do we just kind of hold off till we can get that implemented? There are just so many cogs in this wheel that are turning at the same time. It seemed like putting a lot of effort into any of them until all of them are in place isn't a good time management.
Yeah, and
So the first department that will be going live with the new meeting management software is called Human Services. They will be our guinea pig, for lack of a better word. Once we test it there, we'll bring it to full departments to see how that management software works.
And then I would also echo that, we do have with Tyler some various places in which we can store different documents too. And, that's kind of the latter part of this Tyler Content Manager piece that we have, that we can use. But the biggest struggle is that it just takes a human to sit down and do that. So I think this is a part. This was one of the projects I actually had in mind as a 2025 goal for me as the county clerk, to address countywide retention stuff, which we have that schedule. But I mean, just to clean out some of our documents and get other items digitized so they could be found in a much easier rate and pace than what we have now, because we still have a ton of paper, and there's the paper piece of it, but then there's also just the way that we can right now store those things for people to access. So I would echo everything Barb said and say this is one of the projects that as county clerk I was going to work on in this year. And obviously our time has been kind of divided up in other areas. So in my opinion, I think there's not a lot of time to give to this right now. Myself and or my staff will give you whatever document you need. It may take us a little while to find it too, but we can provide that. But in terms of making a change to this right now with everything else that's going on, there's very minimal bandwidth to do this in an effective manner that's going to be a long-term sustainable solution instead of just a Band-Aid, which I prefer not to have a Band-Aid when we can have a long-term solution. So I understand it's frustrating. Trust me, it's incredibly difficult to find stuff sometimes, but we can find stuff. It just takes a little while, and I know it's not maybe the most beneficial or the greatest way to do this, but it's just where we're at right now. There hasn't been time to properly fix this, and I would prefer to fix it once instead of Band-Aid it and fix it again later. So I don't have a huge update, but I think Barb and I are kind of on what we can do with that at the present moment. Is there anything we can do to make it better in the short term? I mean,
There are a couple of tools that I just want to make sure I point out.
yeah.
One of them, Miranda, could you pull up the county webpage, please? Just the main page, the CO.reg. That's not going to take you there.
There you go. Yep.
Just There we go. Yes. If you look, search our site right there in the middle. So if you search radio tower project, please. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. That will go out, it will pull up anything to do off of our site, any of that. Now, not ideal, but it will tell you any meeting that had radio tower project in it. I don't know if that helps. Or any topic that you choose, it's right there on the main page. You can just search within the site, it will find those. So any topic that you choose, it should be able to find that. The other thing is off of your iPads, you can certainly, there are some search tools as well. I meant to bring over an iPad, I apologize. Thank you, Bob, I appreciate you. If you go to My Files, My Files, and do you sync folders? I'm trying to remember where I had this here. Sorry, it's gonna sync you. I'm sorry. But if we're in here, it's not coming out the way it does on mine. Yours doesn't come up the same way it does on my end. Yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
because I'm seeing a
Right,
difference
right.
too. But that, I use the search our site all the time when I'm trying to find something quickly, because I can always find the resolutions that I need. So when Miranda says to me, what resolution goes with this bill? I'm not gonna lie, she does that. That's where I search for it, because it's nice and easy to find it there.
And when I view this as a county-wide record retention thing, it's not just real, it's about finding stuff, like for the public to find it, yes, but I understand the concerns you guys have because you're looking for like, you know, a group of things like radio tower stuff, and it'd be nice to be able to go to radio tower and have all that documentation in one spot that's particular to radio tower, right? So when you're looking at these things in committee meetings or what have you, you're not looking through all the different files, right? That it's all there. And that's why I think this is part of a larger actual record retention system or some sort of way to do that.
That will be cheap. We'll be able to.
Right, right.
It's more robust.
Right. So I think my request for this would be, we're very well aware that this is something we need to work on. I think once we get through Tyler implementation, know what we have for the software, know what we have for the Tyler content manager, that will likely really kind of determine what we can use for that and what we would need to supplement that record retention policy or the record retention practice for the whole county, because there are so many records, you guys. Like, this is not just about how to organize them on a file on an iPad. We need to do this for every record. So this way it's all going through the same funnel, the same system. It's all digitized. We still have lots of paper and very minimal digitization because we just moved into the digital world not too long ago compared to our counterparts. It's not a bad thing. It's just that's where we're at. So part of that started with the codification, right? We scanned all those ordinance books. So there's even getting those documents from Unicode into a different format for you all to review. So that would be my request for this right now. We will actively work on it as time permits, but this would be a latter part of 2025 project in my opinion.
Any
But
further questions for Derek about that?
Happy to find anything if you need it.
Number 11, discussion, possible action, creation of a contingency resources for the interim administration team.
So this was brought up at the January board meeting as a future agenda item. And then we carried it over here. So this is a rather tricky question to answer. And I need to say, I fully appreciate the fact that you all are willing to give us what we need to support. I really do appreciate that. I think interim deputy county administrator Elder would say the same thing. I really do appreciate that. At the present moment though, our focus is to tread water. And I say that because there are several different projects going around that have really not allowed me to sit down and say, okay, this is what I need and this is how much it's going to cost. Because at the present moment, we are treading water with all the 4 major projects we're working on and just general HR things and county operations, I can't give you what I need right now. What I need is like $2 million and a staff of 30, but that's not gonna happen, right? So as of right now, I think that Josh and I have already reached out to resources for some of the biggest things that we need. So the two biggest things for me are that finance policy and that HR policy. Those are the two biggest things that we need. We need those hammered down. We have their procurement policy, but it's not a finance policy. It's not an HR policy. And taking the time to sit down and gather that information and work through that is a lot, right? And a lot of that will come from us. A lot of that will come from research. So it's not necessarily, I want $10 million to do that. It's just, we need the time to get through these big projects we have and then work with what we have for resources. So Jessica Schrader from County Mutual, thank you, I actually had a call with her on Friday. Josh connected with her. I spoke with her on Friday. They have resources for us to help with policies and procedures, which is what we need. There's lots of inconsistencies in the way things are administered in the county, and we're coming across this because when these issues are coming to Josh or I every day, it's like, oh, let's look at this manual. But it says something different than this, and it's different than that. So I didn't bring my file with all of them, but I've spent hours going through and pulling all these policies and trying to highlight what works and what doesn't work. So at this point, as much as I would say I need $5,000 for project X, Y, and Z, we can't do that. What I need is I need grace, I need patience, and I need understanding. And if Josh and I find something that we need and say, hey, this would really help, then I have no issues bringing it to you and saying, okay, remember when you said you're going to help? I need 10 grand and this is what I need it for. There are lots of ways we can spend money, but I don't want to spend money unless I have a definite cause to spend that money and we have a reason for it. So we will find them. Trust me, we will find them. But at the present moment, we have other things that we have to get through before I can definitively tell you I need X amount of dollars for this. And I don't want to do that until, again, I have all the resources, we've looked at everything, and we've utilized what we can. So if I need something, rest assured, I will ask you. But at the present moment, grace, patience, understanding, and support is what we need right now because there are too many things we have to do to put together this big plan on what I need for resources. If you can give me that, we can work with that for now. And if I need something else, we will ask. Anything to add, Mr. Elder?
I think it goes back to the same thing we said from day one, is that we would come on board and we would bring closure to some of these bigger projects that we currently have going without opening up entirely new projects. Yes, we've identified a whole laundry list of items that need to be addressed, but again, we're prioritizing those, what can stay on the back burner for the time being while we address these front major projects that we're all aware of from day one.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions for me about that? Again, if we have some ideas and things that I know there's some things we need in terms of other resources. We just haven't got to a point where we've been able to quantify them in a cost, but at some point we will, and then I'll ask you. But at this point, we just need to tread water with what we're doing right now. And it's as simple as that, guys. There's no magic answer to this. We're really fulfilling the vital operations of the county, which is what we said we would do. And we're focusing on those 4 projects that alone, I mean, the Tyler stuff alone is about 4 hours a day of and Barb knows this, and Josh, your people sat through this too. It's 4 hours a day of configuration. So that's a lot of time, guys. So really, we just need to get through the stuff we need to get to, and we can think proactively about this, but also too, if you think about staff stuff, like until a permanent position, a permanent human is in this position, I'm okay with status quo because then it's not another set of changes for staff to learn and then another potential set of changes for a new person coming in, right? Because every administrator is different and they're going to want to do things differently and they have some authority and some bandwidth to do so. So I really just want stuff to stay status quo so we can get through what we need to. And once a permanent position is in place, then we can really start to, hammer this down.
That
right
individual to determine where they want to start, where they want to finish, and then have us work with them to understand
Correct.
This is what we saw as major priorities that are coming. Let's move this to the front burner.
I think we have enough to worry about at the present moment.
Anyone with questions for Josh or Derek? Thank you for the update on that. Item 12, discussion and possible action on discussion of timeline for update of county strategic plan.
This was put on the agenda. This was a recommended future agenda item from the last executive meeting. I was not present for that meeting, so I would say you Supervisor Glassberger, someone requested it to be on here.
We had discussion about it just because it had been something that we started to talk with Candace, but there was some other stuff on the burners at the time. And just not wanting to lose sight of it, because if we're moving into looking at capital improvement and all of that, they should all go together.
So I had a plan to touch base with Troy, Maggie from Southwest Regional Planning Commission today at 3. However, we were doing Tyler stuff with Barb today until 4, and that took precedent over that. So I did call Troy and told him I'd either connect with him tonight or right away tomorrow morning. So part of that was knowing this agenda item was on there, just to kind of circle back to him and say, we need to start on that, at least get a meeting on the books, if you will, and a little bit of time to kind of review where we left it, because you're right, we started it. And I remember looking for a resolution saying we can do something, and then it just kind of ended. So
Yeah.
my request for this would be, I will reach out to Troy and just kind of touch base, and then maybe we have a little more of an update in March at the executive meeting when I touch base with him and
That would
kind
be
of
good.
plan for, again, April permanent person starting. We can add this to the list, but we can at least start that conversation with him and get an update from him, because it has been a little while, and I don't want to say I know everything about how that happened, because I don't. So if that's acceptable for now, that's how I would proceed with that when I talk with Troy tomorrow. Fair?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Follow up with him.
Any questions on that portion? There. All right, item 13, closed session. The chair may entertain a motion to enter closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85 1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Succession planning for the vital county positions. Okay. So we are going to, Mr. Manning. Make a motion to go into closed session, seconded by Ingrid Glassbrenner. All those in favor of going into closed session signify by saying aye. Aye. Vote, it was unanimous to go into closed session, please. All right, and who we having in here, Mr. Wendell? Both are interim and acting.
Other knob that you have to turn that actually does something. That's what it's like going through county policies.
We're open? All right, we are now back in open session. There will be no action on anything from closed session. Item 15, any correspondence? Item 16. Nothing there. Future agenda items. Remember, we have the meeting on February 24th, starting at 4 p.m. We will be going over
We'll be
applications.
getting our candidates from the search firm, and they told us to expect a 2 to 3 hour meeting.
That's all that's on the agenda, right? Is that, or is there like
Monday.
15 other items?
No, there's maybe 1 or 2 more, but I've really tried to.
Let me double check. I believe it was a Monday.
It is a Monday because Tuesday is the WCA legislative. 4 o'clock on Monday that week.
The other thing I want to remind everybody is Wednesday night, we have a campus reconfiguration meeting in here at 6 p.m. On the snowstorm.
Not this one.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, that is tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow.
All right. What's that? 6 p.m. 6 p.m. tomorrow. Any other future agenda items? I think our 24th is filled up. We're bringing back a couple items in March. Strategic plan a little bit and
Short-term rental.
short-term rental. Yes, thank you. If not, Mr. Manning, I entertain a motion. Anybody else have agenda item? Motion by Manning to adjourn, second by Williamson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone. Drive carefully. We are actually going to get some winter, it sounds like.